Welcome back. Former Minnesota Police Officer Kimberly Potter is now facing several years in prison at least after being found guilty on 2 counts of manslaughter in the fatal shooting of Daunte Wright. Potter claimed that she had confused her gun for her taser when she killed the 20-year-old during a traffic stop near Minneapolis back in April. Daunte Wright's mother told CNN this morning that the guilty verdict is not justice, but it is accountability. Listen.
I'm still going to always stand on accountability. I think, again, justice would be Daunte being home. Justice would be no more names being, yelled in our streets. And until that happens and we don't have to fight anymore, that's when true justice will be. But right now, we're going to accept accountability. No amount of time is going to be justice for us. But I'm optimistic that they're going to do the right thing and give her a fair sentence.
Joining me now is Anne Bremner, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Anne, thanks so much for joining us. You've handled your fair share of these cases and expected a conviction. In this case, interestingly, which many didn't from the start, you say there's been a paradigm shift.
Definitely. There's been a real sea change. In police misconduct cases, I've handled those after I was a prosecutor for many years, including accidental discharges, mistaking a cell phone for a gun, a beer can for a gun, tripping and shooting, cases like that for police officers here in Seattle, Portland, and elsewhere that didn't see criminal courtrooms. And yet now in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, we've now seen 2 very high-profile cases where we see more police accountability, charging of officers. It's a paradigm shift. It's a sea change.
To be fair, it's not always the case, right? Even now, I think of 26-year-old black woman Breonna Taylor was shot and killed during that botched police raid at her apartment in Louisville. That was March of 2020. None of the officers were charged directly in her death. One of the officers will stand trial next year, but that's on wanton endangerment charges. And then you saw what the grand jury did in Rochester, New York. They did not indict the officers in the death of Daniel Prude, a black man who died after he was pinned to the ground by police also in 2020. So I wonder what you say to those families who look at those cases and say, no, I don't see the paradigm shift.
Well, sometimes these changes are slow in their progress. And I can tell you that, and I think we can all see, that there has been a real change in terms of criminal charging of police officers. It was relatively unheard of before, and now we're seeing it more and more often. Justice can be slow, but justice delayed is not always justice denied. We need to get to where we hold police officers accountable. They want to be held accountable, they say, and make sure that everyone feels there's not just accountability, but true justice in our system.
The prosecution in the case of Kim Potter is pushing for a longer sentence than would be typical with a conviction like this because of aggregating factors. They say that her actions caused a greater than normal danger to human life, given her experience on the force, her years of training. They were successful in the Blakely argument against Derek Chauvin. Will they be successful on that in this case, do you think?
I think they will. This is like a redo of the Chauvin case in terms of aggravation arguments. The best argument they made in this case is that accidents can be crimes. The defense was, this was an accident, it was a mistake, but that's not a defense. That's a crime, and the jury agreed. And the judge will sentence within a standard sentencing range to begin with in Minnesota. They have kind of grids that are like math, but then you can depart from that range and go higher. Her maximum sentence is going to be 15 years on the greater charge of manslaughter 1. But also the fact that she was in a position of trust is truly a potential aggravating Blakely factor, which the judge can consider. And finally, look at what the judge did, Poppy. She had her remanded immediately to custody and said, I'm not treating this case any differently than any other case.
I was struck as well. I mean, after the, the request from the defense team, from both defense attorneys, Judge Chu said, I hear you, but no, she's going directly to prison to await sentencing. Anne Bremner, thank you very much.
Thank you.